You know, it's wild to think that not too long ago, brands could just blast their message everywhere and it kind of worked, right?
Yeah, shout the loudest, be the biggest. That was the game.
But now, it's just not like that, especially in fashion. It feels like everyone's vying for attention.
Total sensory overload.
Exactly. So what actually makes a difference now?
Building a real connection. Actually getting people to care about what you're doing.
That's what we're diving into today.
The strategies of a real heavy hitter in the advertising world. Ogilvy.
And we've got some seriously cool data to back this up.
This report, it's,
FedBrandwatchReport.pdf.
right, that one. It uses AI to analyze like over 1,700 case studies of global campaigns.
And it was all powered by Brandwatch, so we know it's the real deal.
Crazy, right? 1,700 case studies. That's a ton of information.
It really is. So today, whether you're deep in the fashion world, a marketing guru, or just someone who loves figuring out how to connect with people,
This is for you.
we're going to break down exactly how Ogilvy builds those lasting relationships with their audience. And spoiler alert, it's about way more than just selling clothes.
It's about understanding what makes people tick.
Exactly. Before we get too deep into it, though, gotta give a shout out to our sponsor for this episode of the Fashion Algorithm,
The one and only.
Cloutfit.ai. You know how sometimes you see an influencer rocking an outfit and think, I need that in my life right now?
Happens to the best of us.
Well, Cloutfit.ai makes that dream a reality. They link those influencer outfits directly to your product inventory so people can shop the look instantly.
Talk about smart.
Seriously, it drives sales, boosts your order value. It's
Got
a
it.
win-win. If you're in the fashion game, you gotta check them out. Cloutfit.ai. Okay, back to Ogilvy. One of the biggest things this report highlights is the power of,
Emotions.
yes, emotional marketing, storytelling that tugs at your heartstrings, campaigns with a real sense of purpose.
They're crushing it compared to the old school in-your-face sales tactics.
It makes sense, right? What stays with you longer? A dry list of features or a story that makes you feel something?
It's like, think about the ads that really stick in your mind. It's always the ones that got you in the feels.
And there's science to back this up. The report mentions some neuroscientific research that found ads with emotional appeal get a whopping 31% more engagement.
Wow.
And they're 3 times more likely to be remembered. So it's not just a fluffy idea. This stuff actually works.
So basically, connecting with people on an emotional level is marketing gold.
Pretty much. And what's interesting is a lot of agencies are obsessed with, like, where to place their ads or which influencer is hot right now.
Which, I mean, those things matter.
Of course. But Ogilvy seems to have this different approach. They put emotional storytelling first. Like, it's the heart and soul of their campaigns.
Everything else builds from that. Smart.
Super smart. And they've got this awesome example of the Victoria Beer campaign.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
So Victoria Beer, it's a Mexican beer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they managed to really tap into something special with the Mexican-American community.
That whole feeling of being caught between two cultures.
Exactly. Wanting to fit in, but also stay true to your heritage.
It's not always easy.
Definitely not. And the way they told that story was so powerful. They used this warm, almost nostalgic visual style.
I think they even used 8mm film for some of it.
Right. It made it feel really personal, like watching someone's home movies.
Genius.
Total genius. It didn't feel like an ad at all. It felt like a genuine story.
And the message it sent, like, it wasn't just about selling beer. It was about empowerment and staying true to your values.
Exactly. And it actually reinforced this whole ongoing thing that Victoria Beer does. Like, they're all about these values-driven narratives. The report says that 62.3% of Ogilvy's campaigns are values-driven. That's huge.
That's not just dipping their toes in the water. That's a full-on commitment.
It is. So how do they do it? How do they consistently nail this emotional connection?
Well, the report talks about these psychological levers that Ogilvy uses.
Psychological levers. Sounds intense.
It is, but in a good way. It's basically about understanding what makes people tick. Like, what are their deep-seated desires and motivations? And how can you tap into those authentically?
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, so the top lever they use is empowerment. It's all about themes of identity and strength. And it shows up in almost 29% of their campaigns.
Like that Victoria Beer campaign, right?
Exactly. It's about making people feel capable and confident in who they are, especially in a world where it's easy to feel powerless sometimes.
That's so true. Okay, what else?
Well, next up is nostalgia. That warm, fuzzy feeling of remembering the good old days. That appears about 25% of their campaigns.
Ah, nostalgia. It's so powerful, especially in fashion. Like, Think about how trends always come back around.
Right, and those vintage vibes, they just tap into something deep,
It makes you feel good.
comforting, familiar, like a little escape from the craziness of the present.
Okay, what about this social proof and belonging thing? That's another lever they mentioned, right? Around 20% of campaigns.
Yeah, it's all about that human need to fit in, to be part of a group. Like if
Yeah.
you see a bunch of people wearing a certain style or using a certain brand,
You're more likely to check it out.
totally. It's like
Oh,
we're hardwired to want that sense of belonging.
makes sense.
Then there's exclusivity and scarcity at around 16%. That's that whole thing about wanting what you can't have.
Limited edition drops, exclusive access.
Yeah, it can be really effective, but it's tricky.
Oh, how so?
Well, you got to be careful not to alienate people. Like you want to create a sense of excitement and specialness, not make people feel left out.
So it's about finding that sweet spot.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's fear and urgency.
Yeah.
About 11% of campaigns.
The classic limited time offer.
That's the one. It creates that fear of missing out, that got to get it now feeling.
It works. But again, you probably don't want to overuse it, right?
Exactly. You don't want people to feel like they're constantly being pressured.
So those are the main levers, but they also mention love as being super important, even though it's only in about 8% of campaigns.
It might seem small, but don't underestimate the power of love, man.
I hear you. And in this context, it's not just about romantic love.
Right. It's about that deep affection for a brand. When you really connect with their values or their aesthetic, it's a powerful thing.
Creates loyalty. Like you become a true fan.
For sure. And then there's this other big one, inclusivity and unity. It's in over 20% of their campaigns.
Makes sense, with the world being so diverse now.
It's essential. People want to see themselves represented.
And to feel like they belong.
Totally. It's especially huge in fashion.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about the emotion side of things, but Ogilvy doesn't just rely on feelings. They're also really tech savvy.
They use data to boost their creativity. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, like they've got this partnership with Brandwatch.
Real-time social listening.
Right. They
Yeah.
can tap into what people are talking about and feeling, like right this second.
And then they use that to shape their campaigns.
Yeah.
It's like having a finger on the pulse of the internet. Keeps things relevant.
Super relevant. And it's not just like skimming headlines. They're using some serious tech.
Predictive analytics, the whole 9 yards.
They even track neurotransmitters like dopamine and oxytocin.
Whoa. Getting deep.
Right. It's about understanding the biological basis of our emotions and how different types of content affect us.
That's next level stuff.
It really is. And because it's all real time, they can adapt their campaigns on the fly. Like if they see a shift in public sentiment, they can adjust their messaging to match.
Wow. So it's not just about following trends, it's about anticipating them.
Exactly. They're way ahead of the game.
So what you're saying is if you're an agency and you're not using these data-driven tools, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot.
I mean, yeah, basically. The data is there. Why wouldn't you use it?
Good point.
Okay, emotions are key. Tech is essential. But there's another crucial element the report highlights. Timing. Knowing when to launch a campaign and how to keep it relevant in this, like, ever-changing world.
Timing is everything, right?
It really is. And it's not just about planning around the holidays or whatever.
It's about having a feel for the cultural moment. Like, what are people talking about right now? What are they passionate about?
Exactly. The report says Ogilvy uses a bunch of different timing strategies.
Hit me with them.
Okay, so obviously they do the seasonal and holiday stuff, but they're also big on trend hijacking.
Trend hijacking. That's kind of sneaky.
It's not sneaky, it's smart. It's about seeing a trend that's blowing up and finding a way to connect it to your brand.
Ah, I get it. Capitalizing on the momentum.
Exactly. They also do platform-specific timing, like understanding that different types of content work better on different platforms at different times.
So they're strategic about when and where they post.
Yep. And of course, there's the urgency and scarcity stuff we talked about earlier. And then they're big on the first mover advantage. Like being the first to do something can be a really powerful move.
So basically, they're not just sitting around waiting for something to happen. They're proactive.
Always. And they've got this killer example of strategic timing. The Dove #TurnYourBack campaign.
I remember that one. It was all over TikTok.
It was everywhere. So remember that bold glamour filter?
Yeah, the one that made everyone look like a supermodel.
That's the one. Well, it went crazy viral, but it also started this whole conversation about, unrealistic beauty standards.
Right. People were worried about the impact it would have, especially on young people.
Exactly. And Dove, they saw that happening and they were like, we gotta do something.
And they did it fast,
hmm
like ridiculously fast.
72 hours. That's how long it took them to come up with the hashtag Turn Your Back campaign.
That's insane.
I know, right? And it was brilliant. They basically encouraged people to literally turn their back on these unrealistic filters and embrace their natural beauty.
Simple, but so powerful.
Totally. And they used all their social listening and sentiment analysis tools to make sure they were really tapping into what people were feeling.
So it wasn't just a random stunt. It was a well-calculated response to a real cultural moment.
Exactly. And they got 68 influencers on board, plus Gabrielle Union.
Nice. Star power.
Yeah, it got tons of media coverage, 174 different outlets talked about it.
Wow, that's how you make a splash.
For real, 54 million video views, over 500,000 engagements, and 83% positive sentiment. Plus, they saw a real boost in brand consideration and purchase intent.
That's what you call a successful campaign.
It really is. And the thing is, it's not just a one-off for them. Ogilvy actually has this whole framework for this kind of strategic timing.
Tell me more.
They focus on predicting trends before they happen, having creative templates ready to go, prioritizing influencer collaborations, and being super agile with their PR.
So they're prepared for anything.
Pretty much. They're not just reacting, they're anticipating.
Smart.
Okay, so we've talked about emotions, tech, and timing. What about the social and ethical side of things? How are they using their influence for good?
That's a huge deal these days, especially in fashion.
It really is. People care about sustainability, ethical sourcing, diversity.
And they want to support brands that share their values.
For sure. So the report talks about how Ogilvy manages to balance global brand consistency with really localized storytelling.
That's tricky, right?
Yeah.
How do you appeal to everyone but also make it feel personal?
That's the magic trick. And they use data to figure it out. They understand that different regions have different cultural nuances, different emotional triggers.
So they tailor their message to each specific audience.
Exactly. And when it comes to social responsibility campaigns, they lean hard on that emotional storytelling we were talking about earlier.
Makes sense. People are more likely to care about a cause if it feels real to them, if it connects with their emotions.
Exactly. And the report lists some of their top tactics for this.
I'm all ears.
Okay, so emotional storytelling is number one, obviously, but they also use humor and entertainment, data-driven personalization, experiential and interactive stuff, and social and cultural advocacy.
So they're not afraid to mix it up.
Nope, whatever works. And their social-first approach is really key here.
Social first.
Yeah, they understand that social media is not just a place to broadcast your message. It's a place to have a conversation, to build relationships.
Engage with people where they're at.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They really get the whole micro-community thing, too, how different online spaces have their own unique cultures and ways of communicating.
So they're not just trying to force a one-size-fits-all message onto every platform.
Nope. They adapt, they listen, they build trust.
Smart move.
So, big picture, what are the secrets to Ogilvy's success? What are the core principles they live by?
Well, the report breaks it down pretty nicely.
Hit me.
First and foremost, they're obsessed with their customers. They invest serious time and resources into understanding what makes them tick, what they want, what they need.
The customer is king or queen.
Always.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole systematized creativity thing they do.
Sounds kind of contradictory.
I know, right? But it's basically about combining creativity with data. They don't just brainstorm random ideas. They use analytics and psychology to inform their creative process.
So they make sure their ideas are not only creative, but also effective.
Exactly. And then lastly, they're all about collaboration and knowledge sharing.
Breaking down those silos.
Yep. They value diversity of thought. They encourage people to work across disciplines, and they're constantly learning from each other.
Sounds like a pretty cool place to work.
Definitely.
The report also talks about how the whole customer journey thing is evolving. It's not just a straight line anymore, is it?
Nope. It's more like a crazy winding road.
With a million different touch points along the way.
And Ogilvy is using AI and data to map it all out. They've got these tools like social influence mapping and behavioral heat maps.
So they know exactly who's influencing who and how people are interacting with their content.
Down to the tiniest detail. And then they use that info to personalize everything.
It's wild, right? Like, they can almost predict what you're going to do before you do it.
Well, that's the power of AI, isn't it?
It really is. And they're using it to optimize the entire customer journey, from acquisition to conversion to retention.
So they're not just trying to get you to buy something once. They're trying to build a lasting relationship.
Smart move. It's cheaper to keep a customer than to find a new one.
Groove.
And Ogilvy is really serious about AI integration.
It's not just a trendy buzzword for them. They're actually using it to make their marketing more efficient, creative, and measurable.
And they're using some pretty cool platforms like BrainJuice for real-time insights and Obrio for campaign optimization.
They're investing in the tools that make a difference.
They are. The report actually looks ahead to 2025 and outlines a whole framework for content creation.
The future of content, huh?
Yep. And it's all about being research-driven, data-informed, and super adaptable.
Adaptability is key, especially with how fast things change online.
Totally. They talk about using cultural and sentiment analytics to predict trends and monitor how people are feeling.
So they can stay ahead of the curve and
Mhm.
create content that really resonates.
Exactly. And their behavioral data mapping goes way beyond simple demographics. They're using AI to personalize content based on how people are actually behaving online.
So it's not just about who you are, it's about what you do.
Exactly. And their AI-powered personalization is next level. It can adjust content in real time based on your preferences and behaviors.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is. And then they've got this iterative pre-testing thing where they constantly test and tweak their content to make sure it's going to hit the mark.
Always improving.
Always.
So what does all this mean for the future of content?
Well, the report highlights 5 big shifts that we can expect to see by 2025. Are you ready for this?
Hit me.
Okay, number 1. Social-first brand building. Like, social media is not just a side hustle anymore. It's the main event.
Makes sense. That's where people are spending their time.
Exactly. Number 2. Social-first transformation is going to fuel omni-channel impact. Meaning, how you do things on social is going to affect everything else you do.
It's all connected.
Yep. Number 3, social intelligence is going to be a business-critical driver of success. Like, if you don't understand what's happening on social media, you're going to fall behind.
It's like having your ear to the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Number 4, we're going to see a brand world reinvention for a social-first era. Meaning brands are going to have to create these immersive, engaging experiences that feel more like a world than just a bunch of ads.
Ah, interesting. So more like a story you can step into.
Exactly. And finally, number 5, we're going to see agile brand planning cycles that match the speed of cultural frequencies. Like, things change so fast online, you got to be able to adapt quickly.
Always on your toes.
Always. So to sum it all up, Ogilvy's success is about way more than just slick ads or catchy slogans. It's about understanding people, their emotions, their motivations, their desires, and then using data and technology to amplify that understanding and create truly meaningful connections.
It's human-centered marketing, powered by AI.
Exactly. And that, my friend, is the future.
The future is now.
It really is. If you found this episode of The Fashion Algorithm useful, do us a favor and share it with someone who loved to level up their fashion tech game.
And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the world of fashion and technology.
We'll catch you next time.
See ya.